About 4 months ago, I was in this exact same spot. I was wearing my Norwegian sweater and a funny little hat, and I was talking about sustainably managed forests. It occurred to me that while we were talking about sustainably managed forests, I was explaining that this forest had just been cut about a week. I had just been finished being harvested about a week prior to the video being done. What I forgot to mention at the time was that the forest at that time must have seemed rather stark, mainly because the sticks were in the air, as we say here in the North Woods. And what that means is we're here during winter time, and to us it's a beautiful time. Snow's on the ground. It's an optimal time for logging in the sense that we are able to move our equipment around rather on our logging roads and also on our designated skid trails through the forest with causing minimal impact in that the ground is frozen. Then what we go through during the spring and summer, particularly in the spring of course, in the beginning, is a sort of you have a freezing and thawing effect that occurs that minimizes the amount of compaction that may have occurred or would occur during any particular logging operations. Now I wanted to come back now, just 4 months later, and show you the forest so you can see how it's leafed out, how it's greened out, and so that you can kind of get a much better sense of what the forest looks like after a selective forest cut, rather than just sort of the stark winter aspect of what the forest looks like. To us it's beautiful because we live with it every day up here in the North Woods, but perhaps to you, the viewer, taking an interest in sustainable management, it's a little bit harder to see. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to pan the camera out a little bit so that you can get a sense of what was left here in terms of trees in the forest during the selective management of the forest, as well as get an idea of what the forest looks like as it starts to come back after we've created what I explained before as these canopy gaps, releasing and providing light through the forest canopy to the smaller trees that were being shaded out by the rather big trees. As you can see, we've obviously left some rather big trees. This is a beautiful maple tree here. It's probably about 22 inches in diameter, which is sort of riding that razor's edge between being old growth and being a healthy, vibrant tree. And that's our goal, is to continually ride that edge between the trees growing to maturity and falling down in the forest, and going and moving from mature tree to sort of something that's starting to denigrate in terms of quality as well as health. At this time I'm just going to sort of pan through the forest here, and you can see how it's really greened out. You can see how the light is really coming through the forest canopy to provide light to the smaller residual trees that were left. There is a great example of where you can see a rather large tree was taken out and providing light coming through the forest. on the right side of the camera, you can really see where another large maple tree was left to provide some shade, which trees need in order to continue to grow, so they don't get burned out by too much sun. That's particularly important for a northern hardwood forest. But it's this gentle balance between harvesting just the right amount of mature trees, deformed trees within the forest to create these canopy gaps that will allow the younger trees to really start to see their potential over the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. This is the stump of the tree that was taken out to provide the light that you see hitting the forest floor here, near not 30 paces from where I was filming the video. And I wanted to show you this stump because it's important in terms of understanding the mortality of trees. Trees die, hardwood trees die from the inside out. Here, this maple tree, as you can see, was in fact dying from the inside out. So the forester chose to have this tree cut at this point because from here, both the value and the mortality of the tree were really subject to further denigration. In fact, if the forester had let this go for another 10 years, this tree probably would not have survived the following 10 growing seasons as it continued to deteriorate. You can see the rather large star-shaped heart here. Here you can see where the tree was actually taking in water through the cambium, and that was producing this. You can see that the heart of the tree was no longer solid. That is in essence exactly what the foresters are trying to do in single tree selection, and that is wait until the trees have reached a mortality point whereby both the merchant value of the tree and the actual health of the forest benefits more by taking that tree out of the forest than it would to leave it. This is just a few steps from where I was originally shooting the video, but I wanted to show you this area, this site, because this is exactly what we're trying to achieve by selective forest management. Here we have a very young seedling. It's maybe a year or 2 years old. It's a maple, hard maple seedling here that as you can see the light behind me kind of shadowing in through the canopy here. This is incredibly important for this residual growth. If we did not open up these canopy gaps, ultimately these small trees would be choked out and they would die, and we would have no new youthful thriving forest here. As you can see, it's a very mixed age class here. Here we have a beautiful yellow birch tree. There is a large basswood tree. Yellow birch, of course, is one of the most beautiful woods in the world, and probably one of the rarest. It only is achieved, it's only possible to grow yellow birch in a forest like this, a forest that's riding that razor's edge between being old growth and being a thriving forest. But as you can see behind me, there's just literally a sea of young trees here that will grow up to be mature trees. This is a small basswood here, and you know, we are very, very proud of the fact that we have this multiple age class of forest growing, not just for this generation but for future generations as well. And that's one of the great things about WD Flooring, that we are a part of not just providing the resource but also caretaking for it as well.